Welcome back to My Car Shop. On today's episode, we're going to be working on continuing the reassembly process on the engine for the 26 Oakland. Let's take 30 seconds, watch the show intro. We'll see you on the other side.
Working out of a 100-year-old refurbished barn, bringing 35 years of experience to projects considered beyond repair. Vision, creativity, and problem solving are essential tools in this place. Watch as we transform junk into polished metal miracles. This is My Car's Shop.
I try to cover a lot of different things here on the channel, and we obviously have a lot of different projects and multiple brands, although mostly we're Mopar. We do have this General Motors product here, which is this 1926 Oakland that I've been working on for a while now. And I thought I'd take you through the process of assembling the valves, and we'll put some of the engine together again. I'll also take you and show you what we're dealing with in the oil pan and what needs to happen there. So taking a little break from the fabricating on the 70 Challenger over there and not flopping around on the floor and not getting as dirty today, or though maybe getting dirty in a different way. I don't know. Anyway, so that's what I thought we'd do today. So let's get after it. In our last episode, we installed the cam, the lifters, and all of the valves back in the just to refresh your memory, in the last episode that we did on the Oakland, we had installed the cam lifters and valves and so forth. And I didn't adjust anything because it was just ran out of time. So today we're going to go through and adjust those valves, understanding that the valve adjustment on these engines is supposed to be done with the engine hot. So I'm going to adjust them a little bit on the loose side, and then after we get the engine running and get the car driving and so forth, we will have to go back and adjust them closer. But right now they have like 1/8 to 3/32 of an inch of clearance, and we need to get them a little bit closer than that to get this engine fired up. So that's what we're going to do. Very tricky getting set up for a shot here, but want to, like I said, show you the process here. So you can see how much clearance we have. The factory specification is actually 4 to 6 thousandths, but that's with the engine warm. Instinctively, I think setting them at probably 6 to 8 thousandths would be about right once it's warmed up, but I'm going to go ahead and set them to about 10 just to be sure. I'm sure we're going to have a little bit of tap and click when it finally runs, but I want to have plenty of clearance in there, especially for an engine that hasn't been running 75 years. And so all we got to do is take put a 1/2 inch wrench down here on the bottom on the tappet, and take a 9/16 wrench and put it up here on this nut here, and then thread that up. Once we get it close, we'll check it with a feeler gauge, and then we'll double check and make sure that that cam is indeed off of lobe center on the opposite side, so that there's no preload starting on that lifter, closing up that gap more than it should be. So that's the step we're going to go through here right now. I'll take you through one slow, and then we'll time lapse some more. I almost could do these by hand. Yep, I can. They're so close. As long as I can hold that lifter, I can actually sneak my hand in there and thread these babies up till they're close. Okay, that's pretty close right there, I think. This lock nut needs to thread down to the bottom. And I'm probably going to have to modify my wrench to get clearance in there. It's a little bit thick. I'll show you why in just a second. Let me get that lock nut threaded down where it belongs. Okay, I'm only guesstimating that's close. Still got a long ways to go, doesn't it? Let's get that wrench back in there again. Spin that baby up some more. Probably what I should do is run it up tight to the valve, which is probably close to there. not the easiest place to get into here. There we go. We're starting to run tight to the valve now, so we should be able to back that down a little bit. Yeah, we're tight now. If I can do that by hand without, nope. We'll just back her down a little bit with the wrench. Oh, that's going to be interesting. They're so recessed up in there, I'm not sure that I can... Oh yeah, no, we're good, never mind. So I just went too far. Might have actually started opening the valve and didn't realize it. And that's okay. It takes out any lash, any slack in there. There we go. Boy, I really got carried away on that one. Still can't get it in there. Getting closer though, I can feel it starting to slip in. All good, no big deal. Okay, there we go. There we go. Could come up a little bit, so I'm going to get my lock nut down close to where it belongs. See, that's the problem. That's what's going on. I had it close, and then when I spun the lock nut back down, it actually took the lifter back down. Okay. Certainly not the easiest place in the world to get to, that's for sure. Let's see if I can hold, oops, wrong wrench. Let's see if I can hold this here. That's why those two nuts are kind of locked together. I need two 9/16 wrenches, which I had. All right, so I kind of had when I took them down, I had locked them together, so I took the two 9/16 wrenches and spun them apart. And now I'm just trying to spin the lock nut down towards the lifter and get the lifter. There we go. Lifter itself is up tight now, and the lock nut is coming down, I hope. It's not easy being green. Still giving me fits. There it goes. Finally. Okay, we're close. Now I gotta check my lash. I'm quite sure that it's tight. Yep, it is a little bit. But we're doing okay. Problem is when I'm trying to spin it back, I think the lifter is spinning. Yep, it is. So I gotta get a wrench down on the lifter. Closer, still a little tight. I'll get faster at this as I get along here. Just got to figure out the little bits of what needs to happen. Okay, that's a little bit loose, but I think we can get it up in place there pretty close. Again, I'm not looking for them to be adjusted exactly right. That's pretty close. A little bit more maybe if I can hold it and do it. It's probably more like 11 or 12. Get this little puppy down here. A little bit tight, not bad. I'm going to leave it like that for now, because I think by the time let's see if we can back it down just a skosh. Oops, folded my feeler gauge back into the pack. Gauges are getting very hard to read. I've only had them for 40 years. Yep, it did tighten up more. Okay, that's good right there. Feel just a little bit of tension on it. So now I've got to take my 1/2 inch wrench down here, hold it on there, and take my lock nut and tighten this down. And hopefully, yep, I've got enough room. Okay, good. I don't have to thin the wrench down at all. I was afraid that that lock nut was going to hit against the lifter or the wrench, the 1/2 inch wrench. Yeah, that's good. Nice resistance, just a little teeny bit of resistance. I know I'm wide, but like I said, that's the intent. So now I get the joy of going through and doing that on 11 more. Woohoo! Fun, fun, fun. So I got 3 of them done already, and I'm getting a little bit faster as I'm going along because I'm getting my process and my system down on exactly what I need to do. I'm not going to sit here and bore you with doing the next 9 completely, but I'm going to take you through a couple of other things here, and just do some footage from back there so you can kind of see the position you kind of have to get into is not exactly easy on the back. Maybe there's easier ways, I don't know, but for me it's more about the job and I forget about myself in the process. So, but I also want to show you how I set the cam so I know where to do that. So let's go through and do 1 or 2 more, and you'll see what I do, and then I'll explain the process. So the other thing that I have to do that I told you I was going to show you is, as I'm going along here, I have to make sure that the cam lobe is on the heel side of, so there's no lift against these valves. So I go through and I make sure that, okay, so this would be, let's say this is exhaust here, valve, and then this is the intake valve, which it is. So I'm exhausting right now. Now I'm intaking, and I go to the point where the valve starts to open again, then back it off. And so I know that I'm on the heel of that camshaft, and there's no pressure against these. So you notice this one came up a lot. These are coming up a lot. This one's hardly coming up at all, and that's because this valve is nowhere near adjustment yet. So that's obviously, it's not just the clack, but it's how much these valves lift that's important. I also noticed that the 1/2 inch wrench that I'm using is tending to hold the lifter up, so I'm probably getting like 25 thousandths clearance instead of 10. So I need to take my wrench and do a little grinding on it. I don't know if I can explain it, but when I bring the lock nut down, the space that shows up for that little 1/2 inch on the lifter where the lock nut goes is smaller than the thickness of the wrench. So when I shove it through, it's actually picking the lifter up just a little bit, and it's kind of screwing up my adjustment. So these, like I said, are probably about 25 thousandths instead of the 10 that I wanted. I didn't realize that's what was going on at first. The other thing that I noticed is these feeler gauges are not bent on the end, and so these are tending to also throw off the feel of the adjustment. So I need to get some that are, they make them that have about a 45-degree bend out here on the end, so that I can slip it up in there and get a better adjustment, because the head of the valve, or the stem of the valve, is just a little bit up inside the cups on the valve retainers, and it's tending to not give me a good feel for where my valve lash is. Part of doing mechanical work is learning that you have to make custom tools all the time, which is why I keep a good supply of Chinese knockoff wrenches in my toolbox, because you pay 99 cents for 10 of these wrenches or whatever it is, and then you can just take and modify them. So I need to thin this down. One of these will work. Probably this one. There we go, that's better. Definitely finding that I need to use 3 wrenches, which I should have known. It's not like I haven't done this work before, but they're close. So I've got half the engine done now, and I'll spare you all the gory details of the rest of it. I'm going to go through and get the last 4 adjusted, and then we'll make a determination on what's coming next. Okay, the valves are all adjusted now, and the next thing I'm doing is blowing all the dirt and stuff out of the top of the pistons. Engine's been open for a while, and while it has been covered, I've been spraying a lot of liquid wrench and things down in there, because I've been concerned about those rings being gummy. And so I did this one, and you can see this gum coming out of there, which means that definitely there was some gum in those rings. So the good thing that Grandpa did was he poured 753,000 gallons of oil down the spark plugs over 30 or 40 years, or however long he did it. The bad thing of that is that stuff gets gummy over time and can stick up the rings. So every once in a while I would come out here and spray some liquid wrench down the cylinders and turn it over, and just trying to loose that gum up. And from what I'm seeing by blowing in here, some of the gum that's coming up out of there, I think that liquid wrench is doing the job. So that's good. The other thing that I'm doing while I'm here is when we pulled this engine apart, the upper radiator hose down into the head, it's not a hose, it's a tube, was solid rust. And I mean, like literally plugged solid with rust. So I want to blow down in the coolant passages and just shake loose any scale of rust that might be in there, which means I got some dust coming up out of the coolant passages. I'll show you here in just a second. But that way I'm getting some of that stuff broken loose, and when we do flush water through the block, that should all come out of there. So we will give it a good block flush too, but I thought while I'm here I'll just blow it with air. 75 years of being parked with no coolant in it. And I know that had to be true because the petcock on the side of the block here is open. So we just want to, my goal here is not to clean it out. That's not the point. My goal here is to break things loose, so then we'll run some flush through it and try to get things cleaned out even better. But while I have the opportunity to put some pressure in it, while it's open, I want to do that. And so I got rags in the cylinders to try to keep some of that out of there. And the other 2 pistons are up, so we're okay there. But I'm not going to do much of this, just a little bit, but I want you to see how much crap there is from sitting open with no coolant. Don't recall if I said it or not, but there is a steel tube that goes from here up to where the upper radiator hose attaches. And when we pulled that head off and pulled that radiator hose off, that thing was plugged solid with rust. I probably wouldn't normally do what I just did, except I knew that that thing had corroded so bad inside from sitting open with air getting into it for 75 years or more. I knew we're going to could potentially have some cooling issues on this. So my hope is, water pump feels good at least. My hope is that with what I've just done now, that will really make a difference, and we'll be able to get that flushed out of there. Now remember that the coolant passages on this are interesting because the coolant passages are only in the cylinder itself. So if you remember right, I was telling you in another episode, if you've seen it, the cylinder actually bolts off of the block. So you can literally take the rods off of the crank and unbolt the cylinder bolts and take this whole upper piece off of the crankcase. So it's a 2-piece block. So there's no coolant down in the bottom part of this engine. That's cooled by the oil. And so the coolant is just in this cylinder part. So if we had to, we could take that off, take it somewhere, get it boiled out. I don't want to because, as I said before, this engine hasn't been run in 75 years. Things aren't molested. I checked as best as I could underneath. Everything looks tight in the crank and the rods. And so I don't want to molest those bad bearings. Leave things alone. We know it had oil pressure when my aunt and I cranked it over by hand, probably 15 years ago or so, 10 years ago. So my speculation is that the crank and rod bearings are okay in this. I don't hear anything clunking when I turn it by hand, and if it had bad main bearings, it wouldn't have decent oil pressure. And just by hand, I was able to get it up to 15 or 20 pounds, so I'm not too concerned about any of that. So now I want to clean this up, like I said, take each piston up to the top, blow that sludge out that I loosened up with that liquid wrench, and finish cleaning this up. Probably going to set the, no I'm not, I got to put the timing chain on next, so that's where we're at. So just to continue on here, everything's looking good. There's still some sludge kind of breaking loose in there. You can kind of see it particularly in the press down here in cylinder 2 here. But when I run my finger into that, it's nice and oily, so that's good. And what that is oil that's on top of the compression ring. And I'll wipe a little bit more of that out of there, but I really don't care to take out too much of it. And as I said, we'll run oil down in the cylinders. So the next step now is I need to get the cherry picker over here and get the front of the motor lifted up, get that timing cover off, and work on getting the timing chain on, so that we can get the whole reciprocating mass going around with the valves opening and closing and everything. The engine feels nice and smooth. Everything looks good. I also don't want to put any oil in here yet until the head is on, because I don't want it to accumulate any dust or dirt in the shop that'll stick. So what I did with blowing it out was very controlled, obviously, and I don't want uncontrolled stuff getting in there with the kind of work that I do. I do notice a couple of rust spots in the cylinder where the rings had been stuck at one time. They feel okay. I don't feel any ridges or anything that's going to catch a ring, so that should be all right. we're obviously not expecting a brand new engine. We just want something that runs decent, and trying to salvage what's here and make it work. It's just been parked a really, really long time, and we know it had problems. So hopefully the valve train problems were the only issues that were in this, and we're moving forward well now, I think. So, all right, let's get the cherry picker over here and get the front of this motor picked up, and let's get the timing chain on and get that valve timing correct. So the trick's going to be remembering where the timing marks go, which I have it pictured, and I have a owner's manual for this, or a shop manual, or a service manual, or I don't know, something anyway, a book. So got to line those marks up, but then you got to get the generator's got to go in there as well. So several things that have to happen here, but the first thing is we need to get the timing mark on the camshaft lined up with the timing mark on the crankshaft. So I got to get my light over here and see where they line up. I think I remember the dots go together. That's where I'm going to start. Then we'll check it against the manual, and if that doesn't work, I can go back and dig through my archive of pictures on Google Drive and find the picture of the way I took it apart. So got to get my light and get that done. Okay, so I found the dots. That's a good thing. Just got to crank the crank, twist the crank, trank the trank, whatever. Get these two lined up a little bit here. And I think it's like that right there, 99.9% sure. It's just want to get the slack out of the chain, make sure everything is good. Okay, went a little too far, I think. It's a good thing this engine spins fairly easily. I guess we're going to have to go around 100%. That's fine. A little bit carried away with it. Not quite. One more tooth. Oops. Make sure it's right. It's close. Nope. Went too far again. If I can spin that back, I only got to go back just a little teeny bit. Yeah, I know how to do it. Yeah, if we can hold the chain tight, we'll spin it all back. Actually, I think we're right on now. I think so. I'll take you down here and show you what I'm looking at. And then, of course, we will. So if you see, there's a dot right here and a dot right there. And so we're just trying to line those two dots up. So I got to get in the manual or whatever and make sure that's the way it goes. I also wanted this chain to be somewhat snugged and to make sure that it wasn't a tooth off. All right, next step is getting the generator in. So I had the generator gone through at a local shop, and that's should be all ready to go. I didn't want to put the generator in without having it freshened up because it's part of the timing chain, which is weird, but it is what it is. And I didn't want to get it in there and then have issues with, dang it, gasket just got caught. Have issues with it not working and have to take it back out again. Crap, my chain's in the way. Darn it. Not this chain, the chain that's holding the motor up. I thought I left enough space for myself in there. Kind of a hard job to do by yourself, that's for sure. I may get one bolt hanging in there, if I can. Plan. Get one bolt hanging, and then that will help me get the rest of it in there. Once I can get it in there. There we go. Really, yeah, I am kind of surprised that's an issue, but there we go. Okay, at least it's kind of in place now. So I've got to figure out what I'm going to do to block that motor up. I got a couple ideas. Little block of wood, little dab will do you. There we go. I really need to get that chain out of there completely. Is this really a problem where it is there right now? Good enough. And that allows me to get that up in place. Just like I said, I got to get that timing chain in the right place in there. It's kind of a pain in the butt. There it goes. Fell right in. Cool. Another bolt, and we should be good to go. Let's drop the washer. Chris, if you're watching, you probably had experience with this already. If I remember right, you replaced the generator on yours. Good. Most excellent. One more bolt to get in there. Just got to figure out where that hole is. But we're close. And timing marks are still lined up as far as I can tell. We'll double check them. But yeah, we're getting there. I just got to get this other bolt in, which is kind of a pain in the butt. These big fenders do not make life easy to work around. It's nice that the engine's right here in the open, but the downside is with these big fat fenders in your way. Timing chain tension is good. Got just a little bit of play in it. The timing chain cover needs to be cleaned, but I also need to take the oil pan up to the car wash and blast that. I don't have a power washer here, and I don't have any water in the barn either, so when I do the oil pan, I'm going to do the timing cover. So I think I'm going to leave this at that point right there. Probably going to go ahead and set the head back on yet, and then we'll take you over to the oil pan and let you see what we have going on there. So in the bottom of the oil pan, there are screens here, and the oil pump sits in here and draws its oil from the bottom of that sump, which is separate from this up here. So the oil gets its screening here rather than being an inlet screen on the pump. So I've already cut one out because this one had a hole in it, and besides that, if you see all of this crap and sludge, there's no way to clean the bottom of that oil pan at all with this the way it is. So you got to cut those screens out, clean that pan, and then braze new ones in. I got several things I need to take care of. First of all, I need to get more of this screen, which I can get from McMaster Car. I've got my caliper in the house, and I'm measuring the screen to determine. The gurus say to put stainless steel screen back in, so you never have to worry about it rusting, because that's kind of what happened here, was this rusted. I don't know if that's necessary, but probably I will do that since that's what they say to do. but we got to get, there's like an inch of sludge in there. We got to get that cleaned out really good. So I got to spend some time scraping, cutting this out, getting all that sludge out of there. And then once I do, I want to take this up to the car wash and blast the crap out of it and get it cleaned up. I looked at taking this out, this pan that fits down in here into this pan, but it's brazed in and I don't want to muck with it. I'm sure I can get it cleaned up very respectably just by taking my time with a car wash, power washer, and scraping and solvents and just going after it really good. Since I'm going to the car wash anyway, I decided to go ahead and hold off on putting the head on because I want to blast the rust. This was the tube that was completely solid with rust. So I want to blast that out. There's a very good chance, I know my friend Chris, he's got a 26 Oakland coupe, and he had to make a new one of these. Don't remember exactly how he did it now, but he had to make a new one of those because his was rotted out. This one's pretty rusty inside. I got a feeling what I'm going to have to do is cut this off back a little further and maybe have to TIG weld a lip on there to keep the hose from blowing off. I don't think I'm going to have to replace this. It feels pretty solid, but like I said, it was full of rust, and I would feel better if I went through and power washed the head off, cleaned the coolant passages out as best as I could with water and so forth. That'll give me a chance to clean that carbon up. Then we'll DA that head down, block it out real good, check it for flatness, and we'll be able to put it back on the car. And of course the timing chain cover, same thing. We want to get that cleaned up, and I'll be careful. I think there's a seal in here, not sure. Nope, there's not. So yeah, so that's interesting. So this is the pulley that goes through there, and it's got kind of a threading thing on it. And the way that thread spins, because this is a low RPM engine, it kind of just pushes the oil back in there rather than there being an actual seal, which is kind of clever. Wouldn't work on a modern engine with crankcase pressure and so forth, but on something that doesn't spin more than 1200 RPM on a normal cruise, and maybe 2000 if you're redlining it, which this thing better never see that kind of RPM, as old as it is. It'll work just fine. So, old technology sure was different. That's good work accomplished. We're very close to being able to get the head on, check compression again, which I'm sure is fine now. We had compression on all the cylinders, but we tore it apart except for the two that had the valves that were messed up. So I'm sure we're going to have compression on those two cylinders. So we'll get the head cleaned up, get the oil pan fixed, get the head bolted on, get the timing chain cover on. We got to do a little pre-lube on the timing chain, but I'm not going to do that yet because I don't want it to attract dirt. And like I said, the valves are pre-lashed, probably about 10 to 15 thousandths right now. A little bit loose, but I want to leave them that way until things settle in, and then we'll check them again. But the valves are all, actuating good, no problem at all. I'm not turning the motor over yet because it's sitting on that block of wood right now, and I'm going to leave it hanging just a little bit on the cherry picker and a little bit of tension on the block of wood, so it's not putting too much pressure on either place there. And it'll be good for a few days until I can get the timing cover cleaned up and put back on. So that's going to do it for this episode of My Car Shop. I hope you've enjoyed the work on the 26 Oakland project. I sure have enjoyed doing it, and it's fun to be that much closer to getting Grandpa's car put back together and back on the road. Hopefully not too much longer, and we're going to be cranking this thing over with its own electricity and seeing if we can make it go poppity pop. So got to tear the carburetor off and go through that. That could be interesting. Hopefully we can salvage the carburetor. There's just a lot of little tedious details that take a lot of time. I'm not sharing everything with you on the videos because, like I said, there's just a lot of little tedious details that take a lot of time to work on, but I'm giving you just a gist of what's going on here and letting you see what's happening. The significant events and the things that are important, knowledge that I want to pass on to my family. The other stuff is just mundane, like cleaning an oil pan and measuring the screen and all that kind of stuff. So, et cetera, et cetera. And there's just a lot of that kind of stuff that has to happen here. So, once again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. There's going to be more coming on this. I'm hoping to start turning out a weekly episode on the Oakland. I'm kind of thinking of a rotation where I'm working a day or two on the Challenger and one day on the Oakland. So that's the plan. We're not far, I believe, from, like I said, being able to fire this car up. So that'll do it. Thanks for watching. Again, if you haven't subscribed, please do hit the bell for notifications. We're on Instagram and Facebook /MyCarShop. And wait, don't leave. If you've enjoyed this episode, there's 115 more videos on the channel that you can watch. They're broken up into playlists under the playlist tab. If you go there, you can watch the Challenger project from the beginning. You can watch stuff on the 69 Charger. You can watch the 74 Swinger. There's 30 or 40 episodes on the 47 Ford. We got 9 cars here, so there's a lot of stuff going on. If you want to watch everything from the beginning, hit the all episodes and just invert it from oldest to newest. Right now, I believe it is from newest to oldest. Newest to oldest? Yeah, that's the words. So anyway, you don't need to go anywhere else. If you've enjoyed this, there's lots more you can watch. One more thing. Don't forget. Rock!